Now, you could be the worst manager in the world, and you couldn't take a healthy company from 30 billion to 3 billion in 60 days.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of The Download, joined here by Joel Andersen, VP of Marketing.
That's right.
Sam Galbraith, one of our senior vice presidents, coming in live from El Chante, Mexico. Sam, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you, Jake.
Thanks for joining us again from Mexico. Hope you are well, enjoying the beautiful weather down there. We obviously miss you back here in Georgia, but can't be mad at the fact that you are working remotely, doing your thing, enjoying that lifestyle down there.
Food down here is excellent. And they have a number of different cuisines, from Spanish cuisines, traditional Mexican, and like different areas like Oaxacan cuisine. So phenomenal food.
That's awesome.
That's my plan. I want to do what Sam's doing right now. I mean, this time next year, I'm going to be doing what Sam is.
You're in Mexico. All right. Did the wife and kids know that yet?
Yeah. Well, they'll come with me either to Gulf Shores, Alabama, or maybe another part of Florida. But I'm going to the beach like Sam.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Sam, you're inspiring others to do the same thing. That's wonderful.
As long as the pandemic continues, you guys are going to have at it.
Why not, right? Why not? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks again for the support. The Download is brought to you live from just north of Atlanta, Georgia, for those of you who are new here. And the purpose of the Download is, trending technology news, insights, and thought leadership from some of the best and brightest technology leaders, helping you, IT professionals and business leaders, run and grow your business, learn more about what is out there, maybe talk about some of the news and notes, and bring people like Sam Galbraith, who's a seasoned technologist, in for some of his opinions and insights. So hopefully it benefits you there. Again, joined by Joel Andersen, our VP of Marketing, and Sam Galbraith, one of our Senior Vice Presidents. Sam, you've been here over 7 years. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the group of folks that are watching the Download this week?
It's great to be here with you. I've watched a number of the podcasts already and very enjoyable, but I'm Sam Galbraith. I'm Senior Vice President of Client Engagements here at Tier4 Advisors. I've been in Atlanta area for 30 plus years, and 25 of those years have been in the technology community. And it's kind of a blended lifestyle, where your friends, your work, your social activities, everything kind of comes together with it. So it's, and that comes from involvement through the TAG infrastructure, Technology Association of Georgia. Actually, Jake and I served on the Infrastructure Society Board of Directors together, so it's how we got better acquainted. Also, I've been with ATP, which is Atlanta Technology Professionals, for 15 years, and also High Tech Ministries for 20 years. And High Tech Ministries puts on the prayer breakfast annual, and we have to limit attendance to 1,600 people. So I'm an avid sportsman. I've done advanced whitewater kayaking for years, and I've competed too in hydro speed, or what they call wild water. And I'm a grandfather, got 4 grandchildren, so glad to be here, guys.
Thanks a lot, Sam. That's fantastic. So talk a little bit about Tier4 Advisors. Business was founded 8.5 years ago on the premise of simplifying and expediting the procurement process. It's hard to be an expert in something that you're doing once or twice in a 30 or 40 year span. In other words, the average IT professional doing 1 or 2 data center projects in their entire career. So what we are is that trusted advisor, that subject matter expert that literally and figuratively sits on your side of the table to help not only shrink timelines, but make sure you do the project correctly the first time. Sam's worked on both sides of the table, whether that was an IT professional, end user, or a vendor. And Sam, you understand some of the back and forth that some of our clients have to deal with, not only tracking down 5 or 8 different quotes from 5 or 8 different vendors, but also understanding not only the landscape of what vendors do what best, but also what price they should pay. Do you want to share a moment real quick, kind of just high level, who Tier 4 is and why you like being a part of the team over here for the last 7 years?
Tier 4 helps clients and really helps them to do the IT transformation and grow their business. And the neat thing about it, it's going to save our clients time. It's going to shorten the life cycle of a project. The outcome is going to be much better because of our deep knowledge of the vendor. And in addition to this process, actually saves money.
Perfect. Thanks so much. All right, so let's go ahead and get into some Q&A. We're doing this every single week with each one of our guests. So, Sam, tell us about your first job. Would love to hear some more about that.
Candidly, I can never remember not having a job. I grew up on a family farm ranch type thing. My father had the farm as well as a dentist, so he relied on all my brothers and I as cheap labor. So he used to say, "Eat hearty, boys. It's part of the pay." So that's my first job.
That's great. So as you know, Sam, you've been a part of probably 50 plus of these Tier 4 VIP events. What's your favorite VIP event you've ever attended and why?
We've had some great events, from Porsche driving experience to the Dale Earnhardt's racing experience. We've done speaking series with professionals, but the event I enjoyed the most, besides the pheasant hunt, was the fishing we used to do down at West Point Lake. And right before a massive, terrible thunderstorm, we went out fishing. We shouldn't have, but we did. And when the barometric pressure is dropping, and if you're a fisherman, you know that that's a great time to fish. And the fish were almost jumping into boats. And one of the people that were there at the fishing event, they had about 50 people in their global IT group here in Atlanta. And we caught enough fish that he was able to take enough fish to have a fish fry for all of his technology team. So I'd have to say that's one of the highlights. You can't take golf balls and eat them.
That's right. No doubt. So your first job was farming and whatnot, labor, right? Because of dad. But how'd you get into IT?
Here in Atlanta, it was about in the late 90s. I knew some people that were starting an IT company, and they asked me to come on board. And I was more in the operations side of the house. And during that period of time in 2000, it was really a tough economic period. And they lost the CIO, and so they asked me to take that CIO role. And so I was a CIO for a couple of years there, and I was really happy to give up that role. But the reason for it is because what really makes a business is sales and they needed someone to head additional operation, the sales effort. And so that's how I got into the business development side.
Yeah, that's great. So let's talk about accomplishments. What's your best career accomplishment that you would like to talk about?
Last year, just before the pandemic, we have TAG has a summit. It's around 2,000 people show up, and they have an award that year, the Impact Award. And last year I won it, and for that recognition. And I felt really good about it, not only for me, but for a lot of the people I worked with. And Jake, we were on the board of the Infrastructure Society, where here in Atlanta, we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to impact legislation, to make it a more favorable business climate for the IT. We worked on tax credits. Because of those tax credits, we see all of the $2 billion in investments that QTS and Switch and Facebook and all that are making in data centers, and we've helped get the equity investment and VC money here. So it's created an environment for corporations who want to come to Atlanta.
Absolutely. You bet.
Well deserved, by the way, too.
It is, and it couldn't have gone to a better person, Sam. I mean, you know your impact, not because of the name of the award, but the impact that you have had, not only for the tech community here in Atlanta, but your clients and your friends all over the Southeast and candidly all over the country, speaks for itself. You are as good as it gets in the business world.
My first week at Tier 4. Sam literally took me under his wing. If you want to meet, if you want to discuss, if you want to do lunch, if you want to do whatever, if you want to come with me to this networking event, Sam literally just took me under his wing. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. So that, those are the good things. Let's talk about some of the challenges. I mean, what have you had to overcome through your career? Obviously you've seen some ups and downs with your seasoned experience. .com crashes, COVID, elections, things like that. But what is one of the things, or a couple of things you've had to overcome that you're pretty proud of as well?
Some of the toughest things have been as a business downturns, and you hit on a couple of them. But I'd say 1980s was the worst, when we had the oil embargo, the Iran-Contra scandal, where they took the people in the embassy. All the savings and loans crashed. Interest rates for a house was 18.5%. Inflation was 14. Unemployment was 12. Go back and look at Google, the misery index under Gerald Ford. That was a tough time. And in 2000, we had the .com, they called it, the tech sector meltdown, and the NASDAQ in the previous decade had been up 400%, And from March 16th, I remember that date really well, that until October 2nd, they gave back all of the increases the market had. So you could have literally bought Cisco, Amazon, Qualcomm, one of those companies for about 16%, what you would have done in January. So with that, I worked with a company. We had to sell off a lot of assets, and I saw the housing crisis in 2008, which now most of you younger guys have seen that. But I'll have to say the pandemic of 2020 was really tough. You lost 500,000 people here in the United States. It's touched every one of us personally. Business was really tough. One of the clients we were working with was a $30 billion global company. And in 60 days, they went from 30 billion to 3 billion. Now, you could be the worst manager in the world, and you couldn't take a healthy company from 30 billion to 3 billion in 60 days. So that's some tough times, I'd have to say.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. You can look back on hindsight and think, well, people have warned about this, they've talked about it, things like that. But how do you ever prepare for something like that?
Yeah,
and you're exactly right. We all do the best that we can. I was in a meeting earlier this morning. We were talking about, continuing to show up every single day. You got to keep punching because you're going to decide whether or not you're going to, get through it or not. And Sam, you're a great example of that. Some of those tough times, getting through it, continuing to show up every single day, helping people every time you can, and hope for better times around the corner, right? Let's talk about the best thing we saw all week. Turn things around on more of a positive note. Sam, we'll go ahead and start with you. Best thing you saw all week.
The Association of Technology Professionals had a rooftop event, first a social I've attended in 14 months. And it was at the Atlanta Tech Village on the 6th floor, the roof. Beautiful night. You could see Stone Mountain to the east, and you could see Kennesaw Mountain to the west. All the downtown was beautiful. Everybody was looking good, smelling good. It was really nice to be together. And we had CIO leaders. We had a lot of top vendors and things. And it'd been some tough times. I have to say, nobody jumped off the roof. So things had been that bad. But it was really nice to be together, and wasn't too much talking about business, but a lot about, personal guys, marriages, babies, children graduating from college, that sort of thing. So it was a lot of pin-up demand and emotion to get together.
That's great. Joel, how about you?
My 5-year-old daughter, my oldest daughter, we took the training wheels off of her bike, and she is now an official 2-wheel rider. It's so much fun to watch your kids or your nieces, nephews grow up. And so to see my daughter be extremely determined, Dad, I want to take the training wheels off. Like, I want to do this. I want to learn how to ride this bike. And to see some wobbling, a little bit of scared, moments, but then also the triumph that comes from a couple hours later of sticking with it, trying again. And now she's cruising all over the place. And we take her over to the tennis courts that are right across from our house, and just there's no one ever there. So she just has free reign to ride smoothly wherever she wants. It's so fun just to watch your kids grow up and learn new things and face challenges and overcome them. That was the best thing I saw all week.
Man, that's a big deal. Learning to walk, right? Learning to ride a 2-wheel bike. A couple other things in life, but that's always exciting. And as a parent, you got to work through that. There's some challenges there. You got to be encouraging. You've got to make sure that, through some of the bumps and bruises, they still want to do it, not giving up, etc. That's great. I'm gonna prove my space nerd level here, but there were some titanium bubbles discovered in a supernova. Sam, I don't know if you caught the news of this down in Mexico, but could help solve the mystery of some exploding stars for those of you who care about stuff that's happening in space. So this is about 11,000 light years away. How they found the titanium bubbles in that supernova, I don't know. But again, if you're a space nerd like me, if you like spaceships, things that fly, whatever, that's kind of a cool thing as well. More of a personal level, I'll share something. Went to a Braves game for the first time in 2 years or a year and a half. We used to do Tier 4 VIP events. Sam mentioned something about some of the Tier 4 VIP events a minute ago. But actually went to a Braves game, 50% capacity. Seeing people out, kind of what Sam was talking about, networking, enjoying each other's company, being out and about. Obviously, great to see. So happy that we're getting, trending in that direction for sure. All right. News and notes. Joel, go for it.
Yeah, I'd love to get Jake and Sam's thoughts on a couple of things that are trending right now, and especially when it comes to remote work and working from home. A lot of the collaboration providers out there have analytics that you can determine how many meetings your employees are attending, how many phone calls they're scheduling, how many phone calls they're attending, what they're doing during work hours, what they're doing after work hours, how many messages are going out. There are just thousands of data points that you can track with this kind of stuff, with these analytics. The question is it too much, or is it almost an invasion of privacy to see what people are doing in their home after hours, but yet their computer's still logging data? And the blend between work and personal life has gotten very gray over the past year, because it's kind of just constant happening right now.
Well, and even pre-pandemic, I think that was a very gray area as well, right? Sure. You look at the last 5 or 10 years where we have gone from being turned off because our cell phones didn't have email, even text messaging, what has only been around 15 years or so on most cell phones, some of that stuff. But to your point, is it good for your employer to have access to knowing some of these data points, how often you're on, how often you're not? From an employee standpoint, I would say it could be good, because if you're someone who's providing a lot of value to your employer, maybe it's a good thing to show them how much it is that you care about your work. However, the privacy aspect is certainly a concern. I still think that there's got to be a work-life balance. There are some people that are workaholics. Sam, I jokingly say with love and admiration, you're one of them, right? You enjoy working. You're very good at what you do. We oftentimes, as professionals, enjoy doing things that we are good at and where we find value. You provide a tremendous amount of value to your clients. You get great feedback from your clients, et cetera. But I think you can agree that, working 80 hours a week, not that you work 80 hours a week, but you got to have a work-life balance. And I think you would agree with that.
This technology's been around for a number of years. And so it's not new, and they've been using it. Some employees kindly refer to this as bossware. I like to refer to it as a sweatshop in the cloud.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Some of our companies that we deal with, that they're call centers, and they have ability to do this, and I've been doing this, they call them the KPIs, as everyone knows, key performance indicators, and they've taken a little bit of different twist to it. They've called this gamification, where they've taken the KPIs and put those together and had made a game out of it, and the people that have the best call resolutions or the shortest amount of call time or something, they're recognized, and they give big prizes every with different cadence, weekly, monthly, or whatever. So I think it depends on how you approach it.
Well, and again, the sweatshop aspect of it obviously is not a good thing, right? So you need to, as an employer, you need to benefit your employees. You need to get what you need to from your employees and the value they're bringing to your company, without making them feel as it is a negative. So I would say the jury is still out. It's something that's, time will tell.
Yeah, something to be aware of.
All right.
Moving on to the next topic. So after the rush for remote work, what comes next for employees and businesses? I was reading an article the other day, and it talks about how another trend of reduced desirability to live in cities or to live in urban areas. A lot of people are moving, and this is not a knock on a New York or a LA or a San Francisco, but people are just realizing, like, I don't have to live in these cities anymore. And we talked about this a couple of times. It's an ongoing thing, but in the future, you can work in the remote beaches of Mexico or up in the mountains with SpaceX Starlink program. Soon enough, there'll be satellite internet anywhere. I remember just anytime I've ever looked for a job, it was always like, okay, where is it in proximity to my home? It has to be within a 25-minute driving distance, so that way I can make sure I be home with my kids each night, be home with my wife, help, share the load, all that kind of stuff. Nor did I want to spend an hour, in a commute. But
that's right.
That's going to be gone here.
I think that the onus of continuing to work remotely is going to be placed on the employee. And here's what I mean by that. If the employer or the managers can trust that the work is getting done that needs to be done by the employees, the groups of people that are doing the work, As long as the employer doesn't feel taken advantage of, I think remote work is here to stay. Where you're going to find issues with this is if and when you have teams of folks or, company-wide, culturally speaking, where, let's continue to work remotely. And for some reason or another, productivity is hampered or negatively affected. Sam, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, you've been a manager, you've obviously been an employee, you've been a business owner. Thoughts on, just kind of the overall, remote work as a whole? I mean, is this thing here to stay for the next 50 years? Is this the new norm? Or do you see people eventually in the next 6 months to say 5 years going back into that commute and office work environment?
Good question, Jake. We've been on a number of calls with global companies where they have teams across the world, and we had to schedule them, call them. So, a lot of the global companies have been doing this for a long time and doing it successfully. And I think more of this, the fact goes down to these, smaller mid-market companies that, much more controlling and want everybody in the headquarters. I think that's going to change. And some of the tools we were talking, Joel mentioned earlier, they're going to be opt-in. And so people that want to work remotely, they're going to be more than happy to show that they're getting the job done. So I feel that remote working is here to stay, and that's not going to go away. And a lot of corporations are realizing the value of that. So,
what's also interesting to see is, I agree with that. And again, as long as people can continue to do what it is that they're there to do, no matter where you are, work is not a place that you're going. Work is a thing that you do, right? So again, it's not a matter of where you're driving to go to work, and that's a certain period of your day. It's more so, it's a task that you do no matter where you are. And that's fun. That's fun for a lot of people that are used to driving maybe 30, 60 minutes each way to work, where that might lead in the next, period of time. A lot of fun there.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate our hybrid model that we currently have because, a couple days a week, like I don't have a commute. I get to be with my kids an extra hour a day. I get to be with my wife an extra hour a day because I'm not driving a half hour into work, a half hour back. I mean, I love that time, and I appreciate and love that lack of having to drive into an office. But I also enjoy this in-person collaboration. I personally like that hybrid model. Some people love to be full-time remote. Others are like, no, like I need to be around people. I need to be around other folks and collaborate. And so I guess, depending on the organization, depending on your own style of how you work will determine, what kind of job you want to pursue or how you will work in the future. But yeah.
I think employers need to continue to find ways to enable and empower their employees to do what it is that those employees want to do, right? The old-fashioned thought process of you're here to do this thing that fits in a box is no longer the way employers interact with their employees. I think they need to continue to, progress, continue to train, continue to reinvent, continue to get better. And if that has to do with where they sit, where their computer is, that they're doing their work, or if that has to do with what city they're located in or what office building they're located in, all the way down to the tasks that they are doing during work hours, I think it's vitally important for these employers to continue to be flexible and positive. Again, work is something that we do. It's not a place that we go. So as long as the work is getting done that the employer is expecting the employees to do, I think that's all that matters. Hopefully a lot of folks out there agree or get something from that.
So, and an interesting note as well, the 2020 U.S. Census data came back. So now we have that data. The current population within the United States, 331 million. So a lot of folks, at least estimated within, give or a percentage or two, right? Give or take. But what's interesting is that for the first time in history, California has lost, from a U.S. House of Representatives perspective, because it's based on your population, so many people have moved out that they have lost a seat, whereas Texas has gained 2 seats just because of the population shift. New York, same thing as well. They've lost a decent amount of population, and so they also have lost a correlating House of Representatives seat. It's interesting to see what we're doing as Americans moving to Mexico parts of the year, going to Florida, going to Georgia, going to Seattle. I mean, we're moving around.
Technology has a lot to do with enabling and empowering people to do stuff that they normally do at home from all over the world, right? Case in point, Sam's in Mexico instead of having him here in the office. It's an amazing thing. But over and above that, again, you think about the ease of travel. A lot of the things that we, maybe historically it was a challenge, no longer the case. You also see reasons. I mean, I'm from California, 25 years born and raised. It's one of those places that, why would you ever leave California? Well, there's a lot of different reasons that people move. And, some of the different places that people are moving to have different benefits, whether that's for your family, your career, etc. So it's interesting to see. It's a shuffling of the deck, if you will.
Indeed. So one of the last topics here, and kind of has to do with Sam's point that he was making earlier about the ATP rooftop event, is that some of the major tech conferences that are queued up for the remainder of the year, 70% of them are back to being in person.
Yeah.
So of the 19 major events with a Gartner, a Microsoft, a Google Summit, a Black Hat Summit, 12 of the 19 events, so it's almost 70%, are back to being in person, which personally I love. I love the energy that comes from collaborating. COVID friendly, of course. Like, let's be smart, let's be safe. I love seeing that this time last year everything was either canceled or 100% virtual.
You have been able to get a vaccine now for a couple of weeks, and I think that's going to continue to hopefully progress in the right direction for those who want to make that choice. But what that basically means going forward is a lot more of these face-to-face ATP rooftop events, and we're seeing that also with our Tier 4 VIP event series coming back up.
Yep.
Which, nice segue. You want to talk about the 4
perfect plug for the Tier 4 Advisors VIP event series.
Upcoming events.
Sure. Yeah. So we have a clay shoot at Etowah Valley, May 26th, Atlanta National, one of the great courses here up in the northern part of the city. We'll have a friendly golf scramble happening there. And then May 28th in Dallas, Texas, speaking of, a chance to golf at the Dallas Cowboys golf course there. So we'll have an IT execs, business leaders from the greater Dallas area. Feel free to come join us. And then on June 11th in Nashville at Gaylord Springs Golf Course, we'll have another friendly golf outing as well. COVID friendly, outdoors, chance to get out of the office. It's springtime. The weather is changing. Like it's just almost like a rebirth. We came off of a really crazy last year. People are ready to get out and network, bump elbows again, be outside, get that fresh air.
We did a Tier 4 VIP event, 6-8 weeks ago out at TPC Scottsdale. It was great to get out of the office, see a lot of like-minded folks coming out, a lot of C-level executives in the IT organizations coming out, networking, meeting some of their peers, meeting some of our vendor sponsors, really enjoying themselves. And again, with all due respect, if it's not for you, no worries.
For sure.
If it's something you're interested in, come on out.
Come join us.
Hit the ball around, enjoy some good weather, hopefully, and, partake in some fun.
Indeed. Tier4advisors.com/events. If you're interested in joining us, you can find out more there.
So, Sam, as you've seen on some of our podcasts, with the end of each one of our filming sessions, we spin that wheel. So are you excited, Sam? You're going to be a part of Spin That Wheel, all right? Joel, go ahead and do that for us, would you? Number 14. Fantastic. So, Sam, we're going to start with you. Number 14, what advice would you give your 15-year-old self?
I would give this to be long range, be very strategic about things and look at things at history a little bit, but be very aggressive and very positive on the future.
What would you give your 15-year-old self in advice?
I'm honestly at a loss for words. I don't want to sound cheesy here, but I would just say, enjoy the moment, because right now you are living a very, very fun life, great family, great friends, great moment in time in your life. Enjoy it more.
The advice that I oftentimes am asked by entrepreneurs is never give up. And not that the 15-year-old Jake gave up, but continuing to just stay positive, never give up, focus on continuing to get better. Living in California, I'll share with you, Northern California, as a matter of fact, a lot of technology companies around Northern California. I would have gotten into technology a lot sooner. I did a lot of other things for the first probably decade of my career. I think getting into technology a little bit sooner probably would have been a good idea, Sam, we are so grateful that you were able to join us from beautiful, sunny Mexico. You are one of the reasons why Tier 4 Advisors has a Net Promoter Score of 97. You are as good as it gets, a seasoned veteran, but also one of the best people that I know. And again, just wanted to thank you for being on this podcast of The Download.
Well, thank you, Jake. It's been a great time. I wished we'd have had Tier 4 Advisors 30 years ago.
Yeah. To all of our listeners, if you need any help with a data center, telecom, managed services, or security project, Tier 4 Advisors is here to help. Tier4Advisors.com. As I mentioned earlier, we have a Net Promoter Score of 97. The reason is because we are here to help you any way we possibly can. It is a client-first company. So if you have projects, things that maybe you haven't done a lot of, if you want us to go out and track down quotes or help negotiate with vendors, if you just need an expertise on your team to come in and help leverage some of the experience that we have in the 8.5 years plus of being in business with a network of over 700 vendors, please reach out to me, Joel, Sam Galbraith, or find us again at Tier4Advisors.com. Thanks everybody for listening. We will see you next week.
Take care.